So Ken Condon here from Riding in the Zone. I'm getting the opportunity to ride a new Aprilia Tuareg. It's their adventure bike, 2022. It's got the 660 motor in it from the RS the sport bike and the 660 Tuono upright sport bike. So I was very curious to see how this was going to feel, since I've kind of had my eye on a Yamaha Tenere 700. And this would be a pretty direct comparison. And right off the bat, Aaron, who owns this bike, is on my Tiger. He's behind me. And comparing that to this to my Tiger right away, I mean, just like the Tenere, this thing is so much lighter. It just feels so much more agile. The Tiger's fine. It's just, you know, when it comes to shaving off 50 pounds, this is what it feels like. And off-road, I'll be doing hopefully a little bit of dirt riding on this a little later. But right now I can just sort of getting a feel for the seat. Feels pretty good. I just got on it, so who knows. Ergonomics again feels pretty good. The TFT dash. So like the Tenere, this bike has nice, you know, torque. It's a twin, parallel twin. I'll tell you right away, the difference I feel and is hearing is the sound is amazing. The intake honk is quite addictive. So at, let's see, we're at 3,500 RPM. Yeah, it feels like it's, you know, not a big displacement bike, but it's got nice power. Pulls out of through the rev range very nicely. It's a little bit of a thrum, you know, the vibrations that I don't remember feeling with the Tenere. I think it might be a little bit of a smoother motor, but that's just from recollection, not from back-to-back comparison. Transmission seems to be pretty smooth. Yep, as expected, Aprilia always does real good with their brakes. So suspension, we can't really say a whole lot about yet, but it seems really just the way what you would look for is firm, but also responsive. So it's hitting these bumps, and the bike is just about the right valving and springing for my weight. And I'm pretty sure that's all stock, the way Aaron has it. So I've heard of this throttle surging thing that these bikes have had. I'm curious if I can experience it at all. I must say right away, the fueling seems great. I was kind of thinking that with the complaints that people have had with the throttle surging, that this might feel like it's very lean, and it actually feels pretty good. So I'm going to just sort of try, I'm in fourth gear, trying to get the engine to be at a real steady speed and see if I can get that surge to happen. I think some people call it like a cutout. So far so good. I mean, you know, I'm just giving it a little bit of a test, so. Alright, so we're at 4,700 RPM. Let's see if we punch the throttle. So it kind of has a delay until it kind of hits the pipe, and it looks like the RPM where it really wants to giddy up and go is a little higher. Let's see if this guy's turning. All right, we're in third gear. Yeah, it's about 7,000. That's when it starts to pick up. And this bike is not broken in yet, not my bike. So we're not going to bring it up to red line. So I'm feeling just a little bit of unevenness with the carburation, the fueling. So maybe that's what people are talking about. Pretty subtle. So I don't think Aaron mustn't have the optional quick shifter on this. Just seems fine by me. The clutch is really nice. The feel of the transmission is excellent. So it does seem like the rear spring is under dampened. It's kind of pogoing a little bit. So Aaron weighs more than I do, so it might be that he can load it in a way that keeps that under control. But it's sort of hopping me a bit out of the seat, just a little bit. Something I'm quite sure to be adjusted. Yeah, the suspension feels good. Tires that come on it are, they're knobbies, but they're a street type knobby. They actually feel good. I've got the Mitas E07 front on my bike, and it's a lot more vibration from that tire. This one's pretty good. So just like that bump right there, the suspension kind of took a little bit to settle. So I would add more rebound damping. So I've been running at steady throttle, and I haven't really experienced anything dramatic, except that little sense of an unevenness, but it's almost more like just a sensation. So it's nice. I mean, I don't know whether it would compete in my mind fully for the attention of the Tenere, because when I got on the Tenere first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta have one of these. This bike is really nice, and I'm not sure I feel the same way about it. And again, that's purely subjective, because I really have nothing to compare it to. Because it's very competent, very nice, feels a lot like the Tenere. So the difference between this and the Tenere also is, the price. This is more money, but it comes with reportedly better suspension. I'm not sure. And then it has also ride modes and some other, it has cruise control. And I think it has heated grips. I'm not sure if this one does or not. Yeah, so if what I'm feeling is the surging that people are talking about, it's very subtle. I mean, these like these bumps in the corner like this, it's pretty jarring. I guess it has to be in some ways for it to handle, any real off-road work. I guess the suspension isn't quite as, superior to the Tenere as I would have thought. But the Tenere, again, the one I rode, actually had some suspension work done to it, so it's also not a fair comparison. See, even that little lip, sort of a little tiny bump, it sort of sent me out of the seat just a little bit. And I do think that rebound damping might control that. See that the turn signals are not self-canceling, which on my Tiger it is. Actually, I feel that little tiny cutout. I wonder if that's what it is that people are talking about. It is very subtle. Bike feels pretty neutral. Like when it's in a corner, I feel pretty good. It's not oversteering or understeering. A little bit of an oversteer at the exit of the turn, but that's not uncommon. So that intake honk, that sort of roar from the intake, it sounds cool, but I'm surprised that it's happened. I can hear it at all RPMs. Yeah, it just has that little bit of a surge, kind of like the fuel injection is sort of hunting just a little bit. So here we have a couple sort of long sweepers. See how it feels. Yeah, so in the middle of a corner like that, it's pretty neutral. It does feel like at the end, once it starts to get more on the edge of the tire, it wants to drop in a little bit. But that's just, you know, tire profile. It's really not much of a comment on the geometry of the bike. So see how trail braking goes. Yeah, very smooth. The transitions from the brake to the throttle are quite nice. You know, the bike can change direction really nicely too. Oh yeah, the transition's nice and smooth from brakes to throttle. Yep, I love the transmission. It's nice and smooth. The handling's great. One thing I noticed, it doesn't exactly jump out of corners. It does if you get the RPMs up. So you're going to have to live in the little higher RPM range than in the Tenere. Of course, the Tenere's got another, well, a little bit of displacement advantage, but not a lot. So a couple of other observations. The throttle can be a little bit notchy and jumpy. I'm starting to feel that surging now that I've become a little more aware of it. Like I can hold the throttle absolutely steady and it just sort of feels like it's just hunting just a bit. And also when I'm kind of going slower in lower gears, it does sort of lurch a little bit. It's really not bad, I mean, seriously. The other thing I've heard a lot of complaints about is the heat, the engine heat, and it's true. The right side particularly is pretty hot. It's 95 degrees Fahrenheit today, and yeah, but it's not terrible. It's really not any worse than my Tiger. So I'm not seeing a big problem there. And the other thing is that the wind protection is really good. It's shaping this windscreen for me. I'm 5'9", and it's quite good. It's definitely not as smooth as the Tenere. You know, I mean, there's just the pulses of this bike, of this engine. They're just more noticeable. I feel it in the handlebars. And it's smooth. It's a thrum. It's not a terrible buzz. That's annoying, but in the sound, the intake sound is it's constant. I'm not sure I like that. And even sort of at absolute neutral throttle, it kind of goes away a little bit, but it's still there. If you're decelerating, then you hear it, and if you accelerate at all, of course you hear it. It's a good sound, so don't get me wrong. So I don't necessarily want to hear it all the time. You're cruising along at this kind of pace. 55 on a back road. I'm in 5th gear, pretty tall gear. So here, that just happened. I went off to just a little bit off throttle, and it went to full off throttle. And it wasn't me, it was the bike. So that's another bit of the fueling hiccup, I guess you'd call it. Okay, so here's the Tuareg, a little bit of off-road. So standing, it feels good. Fairly narrow between my knees. Handlebars fall where I would expect them. So I'm on the off-road mode. So I can see back there that stutter bump, the little bit of traction control. This shuts off the rear ABS. It's the same as the Tiger. Keeps the front ABS on, at least some of it. So downhill, so good control and controllable brakes. Brake lever throw, rear brake lever throw is a pedal. It's a little long, but it feels light on its feet. So on rough roads like this, it's really good. Suspension's pretty darn good here. This is kind of what it's made for. So what felt a little choppy on smooth pavement with, say, like a seam going across or something, felt like a kind of a jolt. It kind of makes sense on the pavement like this, on roads like this. See, it sounds badass. Yeah, I mean, it feels good off-road. It just seems like it's where it belongs. Some people say it's better than the Tenere. I can't really say that's true. I almost felt more confident on the Tenere. This bike seems a little more vague to me. But everything else about it, the size of it, the weight, all of its maneuverability, it's all good. Suspension's great for this. Well, yeah, no, I approve. I think this is awesome. A few other things I'll mention is that Aaron had lowered the bike about an inch with preload, and also by slipping his the fork tubes up. So makes it so that I That 32-inch inseam can go flat-footed. So that's pretty awesome to make it so that you don't have to put lowering links and all that stuff on it. So that's it. What a beauty. She's a nice one, Aaron.
Cool. Glad you like it.
That's what she looks like right there. And there's my Tiger, old steady Tiger 800. All right, Ken Condon, riding in the zone. See you next time.